Well, news just coming in this afternoon. The Supreme Court of Appeal has ruled that the signal jamming in Parliament during the 2015 SONA was unlawful. SANEF and Prime Media Broadcasting took the matter to court against the Speaker of the National Assembly and others. The signal jamming incident occurred during last year's State of the Nation address, which resulted with journalists standing up with their cell phones protesting that their signals have been blocked and demanding that it be unblocked. EFF also physically clashed with Parliament security. Well, this is breaking news coming through this afternoon with regards to the 2015 State of the Nation address. The Supreme Court of Appeal has ruled that the signal jamming in Parliament that took place during that State of the Nation address back in 2015 was unlawful. It is a situation we remember SANEF and Prime Media Broadcasting actually took that matter to the court against the Speaker of the National Assembly and others. The signal jamming incident occurred during last year's SONA, which resulted with journalists standing up with their cell phones protesting that their signal be unblocked. EFF also physically clashed with Parliament security. Now, joining us on the phone line to discuss this further is Katie Katopodis from SANEF. Good afternoon to you, and thank you for joining us here on Express Lunch. First and foremost, SANEF's reaction to this ruling.
Well, our reaction is one of overwhelming pleasure. Both SANEF and as Prime Media Broadcasting, whom I also represent, really see this ruling as an unbelievable victory. For us, it's a victory for media freedom. It's a victory for journalists. It means we can all do our jobs unhindered. And, you know, we also see it as a unanimous, as a victorious judgment for our democracy as well as our constitution.
And with regards to what happens now here going forward, do we know what those details are?
We don't know yet. I need to see the ruling in full. I need to do a proper read through of this judgment to see where to from here. But what I do believe it does, it sets a really strong precedent going forward and sends an exceptionally strong message to institutions in South Africa that there are some things that are simply unacceptable. A signal jamming in the National Assembly, we have just heard from the Supreme Court of Appeal, is unlawful and unconstitutional. So for me, that is the most important thing here in terms of how precedent-setting this particular ruling is.
Katie, just take us back to that day in 2015 and why both SANEF and Prime Media felt so strongly about taking this case forward.
Well, I was there at the time. It was the State of the Nation. It was the opening of Parliament 2015. And to take you back to that day, there's normally a general air of excitement around the opening of Parliament and lots of journalists there, lots of guests, lots of dignitaries, and of course the politicians in question. And so we walked in thinking this was going to be just another State of the Nation address. But as soon as we walked in, there was something very odd with our cell phones. And immediately, all signal on all cell phones appeared to be jammed. We couldn't make calls, we couldn't receive calls, we couldn't go onto social media. There was absolutely nothing that could be done. It was quite a comical yet tragic scene as we watched journalists kneeling and throwing them, kind of leaning over bathroom windows in a desperate attempt to try and get some sort of signal. And that's what we saw. Immediately we took this up. SANEF was in the house at the time. We took this up, and what also transpired at that moment was that there was a general chant of bring back the signal, which took place in the House, which is, again, unprecedented in South Africa. Eventually, as we remember and as we recall, the signal was returned, but it was more about what had happened and why was it jammed. What we also know about that evening is that there were clashes between EFF politicians and members of the House, as well as security guards who'd been brought into the National Assembly. Those clashes were not seen on television. The TV feed was cut. Today, the Supreme Court of Appeal found that too was unconstitutional and unlawful because it goes against an open democracy and an open parliament.
Katie, at that time, were journalists informed as to why the signal was cut?
No, there was a lot of confusion at the time. There really was. Nobody was clear. We knew that something went wrong and that this just wasn't a regular network provider problem, but that there was a much bigger issue at play here. So while we didn't know exactly what was wrong or who made the decision to do this, we did know that there was a blanket jamming of the signal, and it was very much about the media not being able to tell the stories which unfolded. Let's remember, before the 2015 State of the Nation, EFF leader Julius Malema had threatened that President Jacob Zuma was not going to deliver his State of the Nation, and there were these threats, and there was the potential for conflict in the House. The way we read it as journalists and as editors in Parliament on that evening was that this was in direct response to that. So should anything happen, South Africans and the broader public wouldn't be able to see it. What they didn't bank on, though, was that we were still recording, we were still taking videos, and as soon as we got signal, we were able to tweet those videos out, to upload them onto our website, to broadcast them on television. So the story in itself didn't die just there.
Katie, just lastly, this took place in 2015 during the State of the Nation address. The Supreme Court has ruled today. Why has it taken such a long time?
Well, you know, legal processes in South Africa do take a long time. Let's also remember that this particular case did go to the High Court, where Prime Media Broadcasting and SANEF did not win in that particular case. But because we felt we had such a strong case, that's why we took it to the Supreme Court of Appeal. And today we found that the judges unanimously agreed that it was unlawful and unconstitutional.
Well, Katie, thank you very much, for your time this afternoon. We appreciate chatting to you. Katie Katopodis from SANEF, just chatting to us about the Supreme Court of Appeal, that it has ruled that the signal jamming, if you remember, in Parliament during the 2015 State of the Nation address was indeed unlawful. This is breaking news coming through this afternoon. We are going to keep our eye on any further developments, and we will keep our viewers up to date.